Well, we're back again. On that last video, I was hoping to keep going, but somehow I accidentally stopped the video. So I was referring to comfort and the context and God's desire for us being one of comfort. But then within that passage from Isaiah, there is so much there about a disruption going on in the middle of it all. And so let's just pick up on a couple of those phrases he uses. Thunder in the desert, prepare for God's arrival, make the road straight and smooth. And that language is picked up in Mark's Gospel, and the Gospel reading for today is Mark 1. And it just simply begins like this. The good news of Jesus Christ. When did allow me to read it? The good news of Jesus Christ the Messiah begins here, following to the letter the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. Watch closely, I'm sending my preacher ahead of you. He'll make the road smooth for you. Thunder in the desert, prepare for God's arrival, make the road smooth and straight. And so there is this theme of making the road straight. So maybe I should have stayed up the middle of the town, where the road is now nice and straight. It's smooth, there's a clear way through, there's carefully laid out junctions. Maybe we're back at what might be considered an awkward junction here at times at the end of Rosemary Square. But there is this prophecy and the clearing away of these rough paths, or these rough areas, to make a straight path for God. That's what is happening. That's what prophesied by Isaiah, and it's what John the Baptist came to do. This was John's ministry in this, that he was clearing the way for this new thing that was coming, this new opportunity, this new time that was coming in. And of course it was the Messiah that was coming. We go through times in our own lives where there are certain there's a certain clearing away, where there are things that seem to be disruptive and challenging, and we don't like it. We don't like things being upset and turned around. We go through these times of brooding, as is mentioned there by the prophet. Thunder in the desert. Times that maybe we sense some noise in the distance but aren't quite sure what it is. There is something new, there is something different happening, something on the horizon. And it is in these times of disruption, and in these times when we kind of feel upset, or we might think, oh, there's better things on the horizon, but they're unsettling and they're hard. And I guess as we come towards the end of 2020, that's what we might feel. There has been a disruptive time. Talking of disruption, just look at the ministry of Jesus. It was a disruptive ministry, and yet it had that context that we mentioned at the start. It was a context of peace and comfort. That's what Jesus was bringing. But in the middle of it all, there had to be disruption. The powers of the time were unsettled. They didn't like to hear of a different king coming. They didn't like to hear their rules and regulations being challenged and put to the test, or their control being questioned. But there was a new time coming, a new season, a new opportunity for that peace and comfort, it came through disruption. And so this is what we just need to maybe note for our own lives. Paul was someone who said, "I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances." That was coming from somebody who was not the most naturally contented person, and it was coming from somebody who, because of his life journey, was totally disrupted in all sorts of ways, and yet he had to learn, and he did learn what it meant to be content in all circumstances. And so that's a challenge for us all. It's a challenge for me. I don't like it. I don't like to receive and hear that challenge for myself, but it is one I need to learn, to let my spirit rest before God and say, well, I can't understand all of this, I can't take it all in, but I trust you, God, to lead me in these ways and bring me peace, even in all circumstances. So maybe as we journey in this Advent season, let this be our prayer and our confidence that God gives us peace and comfort, and in the disruption, in the changes, and He is there for us. Let's trust God for His help. Let's just pray. Living God, we thank you that whatever we go through, whatever life has around about us, whatever all noises we hear of life and activity and circumstances, we can know that you're there in the disruption. And we remember this morning especially those whose lives are most disrupted at this time, and so we pray for your peace. We pray for your healing and your comfort and your strength. We pray this day in particular for Stan and for Bertha and for others that we're especially aware of. Come and take your place. Come into all of our lives. Come into our experience.